What I would like us to see is the ancients never talked about the moon as a masculine figure. It was always Venus. I mean, it's a feminine, female figure. You know, the question to be asked is, how does Shiva have a moon on his head? I mean, is it a him or a her, or is it like the form? Yeah, genderless. Is it a form, a force? If you would go to a museum, probably in London or in Scotland, or you have a small artifact and there'll be a whole museum built around it. Here we have I love you and Raja loves Leela and written on it on monuments which should have been safeguarded and which shouldn't be even people to touch and to feel. When we show the sign V today, it's victory, right? This symbol is also feminine. So when we say victory, it's Venus. So
wow. Hey guys, this is a sequel episode with Dr. Ajay Prabhakar, one of India's most renowned archaeologists. In the last episode, he spoke about his time in Africa, his time traveling the globe. This one will focus a lot more on his takes on India. Of course, he's spoken about his international perspectives because most of his career has been spent globe-trotting. But just imagine for a second what kind of perspective that builds in your head. I'm sure you're going to enjoy this episode, but before I let you slip in, let me remind you to follow us on Spotify. We're Spotify exclusive, which means that every episode's available on Spotify 48 hours before it's available anywhere else in the world. This is Dr. Ajay Prabhakar returning on TRS for part 2 of this archaeology special. We got another all-star in the house. One blockbuster episode is done. This is the second blockbuster episode with Dr. Prabhakar.
It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you for being on the show, sir. There are very few guests I get this excited to talk about. There are very few topics I get this excited to talk about. One very fascinating thing you told me about Africa out there on the balcony was the commonality that some African cultures, if not all, have with Indian culture in the form of worshipping Shiva.
Yes.
And a very interesting angle on it where Shiva is supposed to be the divine masculine kind of figure in some parts of Sanatan. And he's supposed to be Ardhanareshwar, which is half man, half woman, where Shiva and Parvati combine and create a powerful form. But in Africa, Shiva is in the form of a woman. What is happening here? What is this?
I would love rather if you could look at Mamiwata.
Okay.
It's called Mamiwata.
That's the name?
Yes. Mamiwata is a spirit, a water spirit. And if I would show you her picture, and you would look at it, you would even think it's not a her. I mean, what makes it's Shiva for us.
Why do you say that? Just describe what
Yes.
it
So
is.
Mamiwata basically, if you would see, has a python or a snake around her neck, just like how Shiva has wears in various different depictions. She wears tiger skin, which is part, has hair which is like twirled and not really combed or kept well. He or she is like she in this case, Mamiwata, is just her. There's nothing made up or there's nothing like kept about her. Just like Shiva is, like he is him. If I were to show you her picture, you would think it is Shiva. So and there are so many things, and she is the water element, as I said. Of course, we have the connection of water coming from his head as well. So there are so many connections. I wish I could talk about it at length again.
Yeah, sure. So I believe even some of the seals they found in Harappa and Mohenjo-daro had some depictions of
yes.
Shiva.
We cannot say conclusively it is Shiva, but we have the moon. Again, a very, what I would like us to see is the ancients never talked about the moon as a masculine figure. It was always Venus. I mean, it's a feminine, female figure, So how, or the question to be asked is, how does Shiva have a moon on his head? I mean, is it a him or a her? Or is it like the form? Genderless. Is it a form, a force?
And then we have this narrative of Ardhanareshwar, which talks about it being genderless. Do the African cultures speak about meditation?
They don't. They have other ways of speaking about, like they talk about unison. Now, they also have this thing about wherein you can take, that is, a priest or a being can take up other forms.
Okay,
Shape shifting, yes. Wherein like mind could be connected. I could talk to you without talking. I could move mountains. Just like now, this is also a theory which comes up in Egypt, wherein like you could move mountains in the way of, with your thoughts.
That's how the pyramids got made?
It's a question. It's a question.
Because no one knows how the pyramids got made.
We have the ramp theory. I mean, we have the scientific ramp theory wherein like you build a ramp and do it. But you cannot, I mean, no one, you could say what you want to say, but not going into pseudoscience again, but still there's a possibility, So was the human mind more capable than what it is today? Have we been numbed by various different things?
By toothpaste and plastic.
It's possible. or it could be anything.
No, that's what they say about toothpaste. It's got fluoride, which crusts all over your pineal gland. It's a conspiracy theory.
We have the same thing about the media today. Like if a child like watches too much of television,
or if a teenager uses too much short form content,
or video games, if the mind is constantly, there's this numbing aspect. So has it, are our minds numb to many things which we knew before and we don't know now? Because even experiences today, as we go out and experience nature, you feel even the ordinary water which you could even have here in a tap, and when you experience the water which is falling from a mountain, gushing through your hand, the impact and the force is very different. Have you lost touch with such elements is very important.
On the last episode, so you spoke about actually going inside the pyramids, studying the pyramids. Was there any part of the pyramids or anything that came up in your studies that reminded you of India? You were like, oh, this is from my culture.
Again, we talked about the pyramids being triangular. Yeah. If you would see today, and we talk about the Sanatana Dharma or the Hindu culture, or I would call it a culture, not a religion. So if you would see the temples of today, ancient, even in our scriptures, they call it as a Vimana. And they are also triangular.
Aren't Vimanas aeroplanes?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So now, for what reasons? Again, I leave that open for debate. The Gopuras or the Vimanas, as they call it, they also have or use the term Garbhagriha, this holy womb. Where
holy womb.
Yes, I mean Garbha and Griha, translation can vary in different languages. But again, the sacrosanct womb, So when we are talking about that,
does that mean a part of the pyramid or the part of the temple which contains the most energy or something like that?
Yes.
Okay.
So it could happen. Now there have been many studies, even in the US, wherein we have had things which are kept in the center of the pyramid. It doesn't decay.
Okay.
It stays on for a longer period of time.
Like food.
Yes.
Okay.
So there have been, of course, it's not conclusive, it's not done and finished. But there have been studies wherein like whatever is kept in the center of the pyramid, the shaped triangle, it stays for a longer period of time. It doesn't decay easy. So could we have had power blocks or power elements, so-called the Vigrahas, which are actually power horses, power sources really, which were kept there and their power never, goes off?
What's the craziest temple you've come across in India where you're just like, oh my God, what is this place?
I think all temples are like amazing, like whether it is in terms of architecture, there are some things I tried at home as well, because I'm a person who is fascinated by sculpting. Sculptures fascinate me because the kind of work, the patience, it's amazing. So some of this I try to mimic back at home. So we have had some things which I've created in my own place with all the effort. I try to create it back home. I'm just trying to prove that it is so amazing. It blows my mind. And I always wanted to get that feeling and sensation when I, wake up in the morning. that this is amazing. Like, how could a human do it? Like, so whether it's the definiteness of the skin, the texture of the skin, to the pose, to the face, the expression of the face, the eyes, whether it is the message.
What do you mean the message?
There are different messages which are depicted in all temples.
Okay.
You know, whether it is guardians of the temple, to like who they are guarding, to what are the story of the person who's inside, you know, around the temple. What makes him so special? What gives him that grandiose? When you go to a temple, it's just not the climbing up the stairs, ringing the bell, and prostrating and coming back. That's not the idea. It's also, that was not intended to be the idea. The idea was to relive the heroism or heroinism of the person who's there. It was supposed to be a celebration, and it was also to imbibe those values in yourself. Whether it's again, wisdom, whether it's education, whether it is, slaying off your internal demons, or like whether it was like bad, Yeah.
What did you think of? So you mentioned that you've been to the sanctum sanctorum of the pyramids. That's what they call it, sanctum sanctorum.
No. No. That is in the Indian context. This is something which you can trek along. The inner chambers are mostly sealed. Like they have kept it the way it is supposed to be set. Unless you have, there are also chambers which we don't have access to. I mean, no one has except the people who are working on the.
What rumors have you heard?
Now there are rumors that there were no mummies there. There could have been mummies. There are no mummies there, is what we hear. There's nothing which is. There are so many rumors. It could have been a powerhouse. There were objects which were like, these are like tread, mills which run all churning out different stories.
Okay.
Power sources which were found there. How can you have such a big pyramid and there is nothing inside?
What are some crazy places you've seen in India, like on your archaeological adventures? On the last podcast, we spoke about signs and how possibly places that contain treasure also contain booby traps, like a very Indiana Jones
Kind of
style places that you have encountered in Africa.
Yeah.
Have you also traveled in China?
Yes.
Okay, that's a whole, we're going to get there after this.
Yes.
But are there Indian versions of that? Like, caves where treasures just hidden in, which are not supposed to be explored?
Yes, the temples.
Okay, it's the temples only.
Yeah, temples again.
Okay.
So these are treasure troves, I would say, of, mythological information. I would call them information rather than lore. Information which is there. Apart from that, they also had material wealth collected over decades by, patrons of the temple who were generally like maybe kings, maybe rulers, maybe. So they used to keep it there because of it was also devotion, dedication, and also safeguard, the treasure, because again, that would probably the last point to fall,
A temple.
A temple.
Because the village or town is built around the temple, so there's that
Absolutely.
much to guard
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So this is a possibility that I see often, that like each monument has its place, or each building has its place. So this would be something in the center of the town. Accessibility is also one thing. Security is also another thing. So yes, we've had this kind of a thing replicated in many places.
Do you think even in the modern day, there's a lot of treasure hidden in India, like in plain sight, where we don't even know that, this ground I'm walking on is actually hiding hordes of gold?
Yes. There are so many archaeological sites today which, and I feel sorry again, because if you would go to a museum, probably in London or in Scotland or in places like that, like you have a small, artifact, and there'll be a whole museum built around it. Here we have treasure troves of, artifacts, and underneath whatnot. We have "I love you" and "Raja loves Leela" and written on it on monuments which should have been safeguarded and which shouldn't be even like within the vicinity of people to touch and to feel.
Have you been to any of these, and have you seen the treasure yourself?
Treasure, no, I wouldn't say, but I want to believe that there should be more than what meets the eye.
What makes you believe? And I'm asking you this because of your scientific bent of mind.
I believe temples, as I said before, like were chests. for devotion, for dedication, and for
protection
really. So a ruler would say, this is what I donate. Just like how it happens today, like a businessman, gets a big, huge deal and wants to do something for the deity, it happens all the time. Like, so a ruler wouldn't be very far away, like in doing such things. So, and the most important thing is the deity himself or herself. He or she would also have elements. I mean, I'm talking about material wealth really now. Would also be old, would also be like carved in a particular way. And I mean, he or she is a treasure to by herself, or himself.
Because it might contain maybe diamonds inside or...
Possibility.
Wow. Okay. So all these invasions we saw over the years, did they kind of steal deities and all for this reason, that they figured that...
Of course, it's also like beyond the material wealth, what human beings aspire or move towards is power and loads of power, so that's control, because that enables them control. Alexander, whether we see, different people coming from different points in time, they always wanted this because they had everything else. Genghis Khan, or we had different people coming on to different continents looking for the same thing, So this is what something, whether emperors or whether, invaders, or whether people who wanted power were lusty or full of lust for power were always after. To get a piece of that action, really. To get a piece of that power, which will make them immortal.
All right, Dr. Prabhakar, it's time for the meat of the podcast. What do you think we're going to talk about?
I have no clue.
We're going to talk about another form of aliens. There is a conspiracy theory from all over the world which talks about a reptilian race that lives along with us. The weird thing is, in ancient India, we also have a theory like that. It's the Naga theory. The Nagas, the Naga people. What is the Naga theory, sir? Like, I think there's a mention of them in the Mahabharata as well. Like, they saved Bhim's life when he was a child. That's all I remember. But the Nagas keep coming up in ancient Indian culture. So what does the world of archaeology say about this? Or are they depicted on temple walls?
Yes. When you see the depiction of a snake, and if you would see most of the temples, we have one way or the other the depiction of snakes everywhere. So we have to understand that it's an ideology which is behind it. So we have a whole philosophy, again, matriarchal in its origin. And they again, and there are so many stories, even in Africa for that matter, or, even in India about...
Even they have their version of Nagas.
Yes.
Okay.
Because it's something which permeates, or which really percolates through the domain, coming on to, India and then going on to China. So this is a tribe which was very strongly intertwined with nature, that's for sure. They also understood the cycle of life. They also understood the cycle of mind.
Okay.
How it grows as a human being, how, and it is depicted in different phases. So they understood different philosophy. It was a very deep, it had a very deeper base, if you could call it that. And it also gave power to women, as I said before. So whether it is decision making or whether it's property, most of it or many of it, which you would still see in societies in Kerala, Karnataka, many places. So again, like you would see vibrations and going across to China, where, if you would see some feats which are done by women, you would see, is this a woman really so strong? Like here, we have a depiction, again, it's a societal depiction of a woman being coy, not very strong physically. Is this really a woman, as in even physically strong? Like, apart from the mental aspect of it, the physically strong aspect of it. This is something which is like highlighted, and it reverberates again and again.
But do you think that it was actually maybe dinosaurs that evolved into like this slightly advanced race?
Again, the reptilian part of it, crocodiles also are, again, we have a thing with crocodiles, whether it's, Vishnu saving the elephant from the crocodile, or even there are different tales about crocodiles which keep propping up here and there. Now it could be just one of stories, but it could also be saying a story about something else. Now crocodiles, again scientifically looking at it, it's one of the older beings.
It's the only dinosaur that still exists.
Put it straight. So again, if you're looking at it that way, so now the reptiles, like they are all coming together in this. They are echoed more in this tribe. So could it have been that it is carrying a message from before of something which existed and which doesn't exist now?
What do the stories say? I think you said something on the balcony that there are legends that they were kind of driven away or they left human culture or something like that.
Yes. Now, stories which have a very strong matriarchal or a maternal influence. Now, I would touch a little with, I go on to Christianity a little bit, wherein the stories of Mary Magdalene were, you might say maybe it never existed. Maybe it's not the truth. But Mary Magdalene, though we give her importance, the importance is just like, Jesus is, a person who Jesus knew. Like, but her place in the different Bibles available, she had more power to it. She had more influence. She was a healer. She was a seeker. So, wherein she is labeled a prostitute and shelved, so that the primary hero still remains.
One more burning question I've always wanted to ask an archaeologist is that has there been archaeological research done on Kurukshetra, which was supposedly the same battleground where the Mahabharata took place? Is it true that they've done some sort of research there where they've found some traces of nuclear energy or something like that? Or is it just an urban legend?
Nuclear energy or nuclear devices are not new, or it's not like never been depicted in our, whether it's, I don't want to call it mythology, with our stories,
History, as many people
history,
call it.
Yes, the history. So it's whether it's like the Brahmastra,
which was a nuclear bomb,
which is a nuclear device, definitely, or the invocation making, even blades of grass like nuclear, possibility with words again. I would go back
spells,
to yes,
the equivalent of European
spells, chants, hymns, mantras, So whatever be the case, making it more potent, making it lethal. Now these are different stages of like how you could make a device. So it could be rubbing of chemicals. It could be saying something to make sound waves. It could be blowing certain devices to make it potent. These are all different possibilities which could have been possible in that age, which is even possible now. Like, different elite forces use different aspects of it, for various different reasons. So again, it's a possibility. So when we even talked about Vimana before, we had that thing of like, we had Lanka. Again, we touch upon Ramayana, wherein like Ravana carried Sita in a Pushpaka Vimana, right?
A plane.
Yes, a plane. So how was it propelled? How did he manage to take her there? Now, these are questions like you would even say, how is it possible? Planes were not even invented, then. So, but it's a possibility that even we have Vaimanika Shastra, right? Wherein like we have detailed descriptions of like how a plane is made.
Is it still available?
It is available.
Vaimanika Shastra?
Yes.
How do you actually get to reading these books?
The one which I have is again a very different copy, but there's one in the museum as well.
Okay.
So wherein like I'll just give you the gist. Of course, I think it is in, I'm not sure which museum. It's one of the, I think it's either the Mysore Museum or a museum in the north. I'm not sure about it.
Sure.
So we have copies there wherein like you have how much metal to mix.
Wow.
The proportion like in which all these metals can be mixed together.
I believe mercury is also a very key metal in Vimana propulsion.
Yes, is what they proposed. These are things which we don't know. I would implore, in fact, that everyone comes on board and starts picking up at least small parts of it.
Why haven't there been aeronautical engineers who already pride doing that.
Now this is where we have given up so easy. There was a committee set, I think it was 1976 or 78 or 80s, 81, 82. There was a team which tried to delve into what was, what was possible with those texts, and they wrote off the text.
You mean USA wrote off the text?
No, it was our team. I believe like it was, maybe it could have been influenced by
by geopolitical powers.
It could be. We can never say.
Maybe they took it and used it in Area 51.
It's a possible, because these things talk about how a plane can be invisible, how you can listen to a neighboring plane's conversation,
like really high levels of engineering
or imagination,
or
creativity. Really,
I mean, we'll never know until we actually put it to use and start constructing that device.
Yes. The devices or the metals are not known.
Are not known.
Not known in the sense they say it in languages which are very local then, or which were local then. We don't understand those languages or what they mention or what they refer to now. Number two.
What language was it? We don't know.
Well, it is in Sanskrit, but the names of those metals are not understood.
Okay.
At least I don't know any of them. Even others have tried. I think they don't know. To understand what these constituents are or the ingredients are, their proportions. Now the matra is something which we don't understand. Math is something very different.
It's an advanced form of mathematics?
Different form of mathematics.
Really?
Yes. Because we don't understand them.
What do you mean different form of mathematics?
They talk about, see, it's like a centimeter. You understand, I understand. Meter, you understand. Maybe, let's say, degree centigrade, we understand. Probably the guys in UK probably will have some, but they'll use Google, But do we have something like, which says cow or matra? Like, those units mean how much? Doesn't mean a spoon, doesn't mean a bucketful.
Okay.
Doesn't mean like, so they have to be mixed in a certain proportion to attain certain other things. So that is when it also talks about, there are, I think it's been some time. It talks about, I think I remember 6 or 7 chapters. It talks about the metals which could be used, the energies which could be, used to propel. It had about 6 or 7 again energies which could be used at different points of time. Solar.
Okay, that's what energy means. Kind of electricity.
Yes,
where the electricity
levitation, like how to achieve levitation. So there were different instances. I don't have clear memory of all different aspects. It talked about memory. It talked about metals being used. It talks about the constituents, like what are the different parts in the nose, like the wings, how it can be undetectable, how it can hear. It is part of my book as well. I mean, part of it. Childress is someone who wrote about the book, and we've also mentioned in our books. So it is part of my book wherein like we explore what is the greatness, the great science and technology beyond, which was existing in ancient India. So this is something you cannot just push it away saying that it is not possible. Not possible by us, yeah. But let's sit back and then think about what are the different constituents which could make that. Even to make a table or any device, it needs certain constituents. How much pain has the author? And I say the author because I believe it was authored by Muni Bharadwaja. But that apart, even if it was created by someone, to put about 7 chapters imagining a thing which would fly, because mind you and me, like there was nothing which was flying except the birds then. To have like people sitting in a pilot, co-pilot, to imagine things as to what would make it, to put it together in such a painstaking manner. If we can believe Ayurveda, why can't you believe like something like this? I would say let us be more scientific in our approach and not push away things which wouldn't make sense. Yeah, of course, our team has gone through, but it wouldn't like harm any. I believe someone in Pune even tried to make it fly, and it flew. Someone else had also picked it up. They went to great lengths to make it fly. It flew, but I don't know what happened to that project. But we have been trying to make or give life to such ancient techniques or sciences.
I believe that the Harappa Mohenjo-daro language has still not been deciphered, right?
Yes.
hieroglyphic. At least it wasn't deciphered in 2005 when I was studying about it.
Yes,
It's been
even
17
now,
years.
even now, like, see, that's the span of time. Before like, I would just go off, into the books of history.
I think
myself.
what they've started to figure now is that those weren't the only two early centers, and that Indus Valley civilization was actually spread over the Gangetic plains as well, as in where the Ganga exists and
No,
beyond.
But we've not been able to, of course, with AI coming in, there's a lot of help which will be coming in. Reinforcement is on its way.
Okay.
So at least them, they would be helpful in, gathering. There have been specific programs, in fact, which are tackling this.
Like the cracking that language.
Yes.
What do you think will get unlocked when we crack that language?
Definitely a whole sea, if not a whole ocean of, treasure troves in sense of knowledge.
Okay.
Also, how people thought, how people did, how people were in terms of, like, we talk even today about, the how glorified, Greek culture, wherein they even had toilets, water running. But we had those things even here, So there were many things which were glorious during it. Is like really the golden or the platinum age of civilizations, like, if you could have it. So some of those things will be at least revealed, and it will be out in the world, so that any scientific person who comes in will have a open mind to at least start with a good start, rather than just saying, oh, this is another tribal way of doing things.
Maybe we'll end this particular episode with the subject of Prakrit, which we just touched upon in the last episode. What is Prakrit? Have they deciphered that language entirely? Again, this is also in the realms of mystery. Like, really? Yes. Okay. So, but what comes in Prakrit is basically also like... in context of the view of Prakrit is possibly the predecessor of Sanskrit? Or a parallel, maybe an elder brother of Tamil. Of Tamil? Of Tamil, maybe in the same family, probably. Okay. One of the older languages, definitely. Where does the Tamil culture stand in the middle of all this? Because I know that it's actually deeply ancient, but unfortunately, only folks from Tamil Nadu know about Tamil culture in detail. It's rich. It's heady. Why I say it is there is so much to learn, because it's a language which is also, of course, languages have also evolved over time. But it has many things in Prakrit as well. I got many of the things in Malayalam. Like I got Malayalam as a case study because that's one language which I understood and I know how to go about it. So in Malayalam itself, which is a much younger, or so we believe, branch of languages, there are so many beautiful things which can be connected to languages in Africa. Really? Yes. Like what? Linguistics is one aspect of it which compares languages. This is also where the AI part came in, wherein like, we used to use algorithms to understand like what the image is and how, it relates to another symbol or sign in another, language. So there were so many crossovers, if you would see the sounds. So many of them, or most of them, were iconographic in the sense like they started with pictures, pictorial languages. So if you have ka, so you could have a crow, just an example. And then that later becomes a, L kind of a thing, or a U kind of a thing. So similarly, again, just because it crosses my mind, the V, letter V, what do we understand of it? Since it's so much about our segment, I'll just leave that to the viewer to guess for another 3-4 seconds. But when we show the sign V today, it's victory, right? This symbol is also feminine. It's also it is the garbha, where the child is. Womb, yes. So this, when you say it's the universal symbol for a woman, is we, so when we say victory, it's Venus. So wow. So the Venus, or the victory, is the victory, which was, this symbol could have long been used for various different reasons, but in the V language, is still there. Oh, what's the male equivalent of?
is the pointed.
Like upside down. An upside down V.
Yes, it's a projection.
An A?
Possibly. It has many interpretations, in English at least. But it was used, even in our language, like wa is, like this. It goes down and comes up. It's a womb.
Whoa.
Yes. And we also is like, I would like to go again into depths.
No, go for it. Go for it. This is not the end of the show. Go for it.
So again, in various structures, V has been used to symbolize the unification, or even older structures wherein symbolism is like key. These forces have been used, to showcase the unity, the balance.
Again, pointing towards matriarchy.
And patriarchy together. The forces, the joining forces, it's not only about one side, it's the balance. What I'm trying to say, and even in the previous segments I said, was it's just not one side. It has to be a balance. Now what we are shifting towards patriarchal should have been a balance of patriarchal and matriarchal. That is, whether it's signs and symbols, whether it's thoughts, whether it's emotions, whether it's the way we do things, whether it's construction, the arch.
Whether it's your own human psychology.
Absolutely. Our interface, our thoughts.
Have to have masculine and feminine energy both.
For a complete, holistic human being.
Dr. Prabhakar, there's still a lot more to unpack, and if we don't stop this episode, it's just going to go on and we're going to miss out on the fantastic dal bati that's waiting for us.
Thank you.
So,
thank you for having me, really. It was fun. It was so much of joy, talking with you. I felt I was just, going on talking with our friends out there and you. I mean, I had so much fun.
Same, sir. Likewise. It's always great to unpack information from someone who's accumulated it over the years. And I think the Indian internet is just starting to discover you. There's a lot more to come. And what we'll do now is we'll link your handles down below, your website down below. For more, I highly recommend the audience go check it out.
Thank you.
Sir, we're going to have you back on the show speaking about Africa, speaking about shamans, speaking about North America.
Sure.
And all your adventures and all those Indiana Jones style places that you've seen in your life.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
This was fun. Hey guys, so that was the episode for today. Archaeology, history, fragmented history. These are topics that I wish to talk about a lot more on the show. So please let us know your guest recommendations in the comment sections on our social media. We're always on the lookout for new guests for TRS. Please send in your recommendations and remember to follow us on Spotify. Every episode's available on Spotify 48 hours before it's available anywhere else in the world. This is Ranveer. That was Dr. Ajay Prabhakar, and we'll see you soon.